Alright guys, hello Riven mains and Yasuo mains alike. I'm the Nightwing Way of Life Esports coming at you guys with another League of Legends video. And today we are going to be talking about Schalke Null Fear. So after the disastrous year that Schalke had in 2019, they decided to pick up Dreams, Forgiven, and Gilius. Yes, the god Gilius that was on Vitality that always gets consistently replaced by Kikis. Yes, that Gilius is on Schalke. So, last year, Schalke had a lot of issues. They started off really strong in spring, and then they just all came crashing down. They didn't make playoffs. Then, right after that, they really weren't that relevant for summer. They had quite a number of issues, later into the split. They were a pretty wildly inconsistent team. Upset was their franchise man for quite a bit of time, and then now he's moved on to Origin, and that inclined the entire bot lane change. This is a completely new revamped bot lane for Schalke. As last year they had Ignar as well with Upset. He's moved on to FlyQuest. And then also right now, you also look at the fact that they have now Forgiven, who's come back from his military service. And you have Dreams, who was previously on SK Gaming. So with that being said, you must realize that there's going to be a completely different new look for Schalke. To be fair, this kind of reminds me of that old SK Gaming roster with Svenskeren and was it unrated, right? No, it's in-rated, Forgiven, and those guys, because this roster has a lot of pieces from, or a lot of, not necessarily pieces, a lot of elements of that roster. Man, that's a lot of puns right there, if you guys have been watching EU as long as I have, but I see a lot of that old SK Gaming roster, pre-EU franchising in this roster. So strong weak side top laner, a strong kind of jungler, Gillies strong kind of jungler, a decent mid laner. You also have really strong bot side. Forgiven likes to play the game a certain way, but Forgiven has not played competitively for a very long time. So if he is not initially good when the split first starts, I know a lot of people are going to jump on his back and say he was always overrated, he was always trash. Please don't do that, because we know that's not true. He's actually really good, and back in 2016 when H2K, made Worlds, I even told so many people that Forgiven was better than Reckless during that year. But it's just so happens that people like to rewrite history, and they just kind of, only want to remember what they want to remember without actually remembering how things actually happened. And Forgiven is a really strong AD carry, but I think that he will be a really strong player in the league in general, and being on this team is really going to help out with that, because I think that his more aggressive nature will be better for this roster, because, I think they said they had a lot of problems with, like, shot calling and who's going to take the lead when specific things need to take place during the games, and that becomes the problem of what do you really think is going to be the issue with the roster. And that's my thing, is that I think this squad is playoff caliber. I think you have great quality players for the pieces that you could acquire. I just don't know if they're able to consistently find a way to play the game correctly to the point where this is going to be a roster that a lot of their Schalke fans get behind, because this is an interesting roster to the point where are there, what's the word I would use? Is there big kind of man macho-ness going to make them implode from the outside or the inside out? Because I think that when this team starts losing, that's when we're going to start seeing a lot of their basic misplays on stage, and then it turns to basic misplays, then it turns into a losing streak, because we've seen the story before. It turns into misplays, turns into a losing streak, then it turns into players not agreeing with each other, and then next thing you know, we're into 2021, and then the whole roster's changed. I've seen that story before, man. It always seems to be the narrative with teams who do really well when the league first starts for a new season, and then they start losing a bunch. They don't really know how to deal with it. They start acting like little babies, and then next thing you know, teams are putting out articles saying, oh my god, we have to bench Forgiven, he punched Otawamne in the face. You know, it's just a bunch of stuff that we usually have to go through when we have new rosters, because you really don't know, actually. And not saying Otawamne and Forgiven ever fought each other. That was literally just a joke, but you have to say that nowadays because people are stupid and literally just don't really think in the context of satire. But it's okay. Alright, so let's go top 2 bot side for this roster. But before I will go over that, this roster looks like to be a team that is going to be really early game focused. I know that might sound crazy, and because, you know, G2 is one of G2 and Fnatic are their best early game teams, but I do think that this is a good, strong early game team, looking at all their pieces. We know Abadage wants to fight early, Otawamne, he's a strong weak side player, Gilius definitely wants to do stuff early, and so does Forgiven, so you have a really good core for an early game team, and with this patch coming up, we know early game is the name of the game. Now, looking at the top side to bot side, let's go Otawamne. So Otawamne has been a pretty good, solid top laner ever since he's been in the LEC. There's nothing pretty much I can say about him that's not really actually anything that's leaning towards criticism, because he's actually been pretty well. There's been some splits where he was considered like the 5th best top laner, but you know, being 5th best out of like 10 players is actually not that bad, and he's actually a really strong weak side top laner. He's not really that flexible, as when you try to put him into a flexible position, he kind of doesn't do too well, which is my only criticism of him. I think that he should be more flexible as a top laner, but you know, I think he's perfectly fine for his role. I think he's really strong laner. When he ever gets a lead, he knows how to translate it, and we saw him toward the back end of the summer split really start to come into his own, but he does kind of struggle with the new top lane talent that has actually been taking over in like Wonder, Bwipo, Cablishard, always, you know, kind of being the over like alpha males in the top lane for the LEC. And I can't believe I just said Bwipo was going to be an alpha male. Holy crap, what kind of crack am I smoking? Alright, so Gilius is their jungler, and I don't really know what to say about Gilius that isn't like, ooh, I think he's their weak point of their team. Yeah, it's gonna be, no, it's Abadage their weak point, but Gilius is like their second exploitable weakest player on their team. I understand he constantly got replaced by Kikis sometimes during his tenure in being in the EU LEC or whatever you want to call it, but let's be honest here, it was due to disagreements with the team, which is what a lot of people said. Also, he started playing badly anyway. Like, look at it from an org perspective. If you start playing badly, you lose your job. That's how it works. You know, happens in most corporate companies. You know, you start performing badly, and soon enough, people don't like it, and they want you gone. That's just how it works. Whether or not it's right or wrong doesn't really mean anything. It's just how the world works. And Gilius is just, I don't know if he's truly a strong jungler. He's like upper middle tier at best. His highest highs are pretty much, I think, along the lines of that, and it depends on what side he chooses to focus, but I'm not really into the hopeful for Gilius being on the roster, but you know, we'll see how he pans out. Alright, Abadage. Abadage is a rather interesting player as well. We saw Humanoid, Nemesis, and Abadage. We saw 2 of them go to Worlds, and then we saw Abadage having the most deaths of any mid laner. His laning phase was atrocious. I don't have to point out stats. I don't like using stats. Stats are stupid for a lot of reasons. But if you want to use them to kind of cherry pick some of your arguments, he had some of the worst stats for mid laners. It was really bad. You could even watch the games and realize just how dumpstered he was getting destroyed by every single mid laner in the LEC. He even lost to mid laners that literally were actually mechanically worse than him. Sorry. It's weird how I should phrase that. He basically lost to people that he shouldn't have lost to, only because he just chose to keep playing the way that he chose to play. I think that he's one of those stubborn players who don't really understand what they're doing wrong, but consistently every single game tries to show you the exact same thing, yet it's going to be the same result. Pretty much nothing. And there's not much there I can really say that is a positive going in for this. It was his first year. Maybe he can improve. I'll give the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not really too sure. And now the bot lane. Forgiven and Dreams obviously are, you know, a new bot lane. Dreams, I think, got a lot of undeserved credit on SK when he was the secondary primary carry for the team. Yes, he was the secondary carry for SK. Him and Selfmade were the best parts about SK last year. And I think with Forgiven, you get a really strong player who wants to play aggressive. He wants the Lucians, Dravens. He wants all the aggressive picks. He will straight up pick Misfortune if he thinks it's going to be a really strong pick to play. And I think this bot lane is going to be one of the more better surprising bot lanes of the league. And I think if Dreams is able to consistently roam effectively as he did during the 2019 LEC year, then they're going to actually be a pretty good team. And I think this team is like this team is like 5th, 6th place material right now, looking at it coming in. But I do think that they can be, at best, a 3rd place team in the LEC. And that's actually pretty good if you're counting how much they had to rebuild from last year. And they want a completely new identity. And I'm super happy they're willing to make moves if it's not working out. And a lot of teams are never willing to make moves because, you know, the fans won't like it. But fans will also like it when you're winning. So, you know, that's going to be a better thing for them as well. So that's it, guys. I'll see you guys later. What do you guys think about Schalke? No fear going into the 2020 LEC year. Will they make Worlds at the end of the year? I don't really know. EU's like 3rd seed every single year is pretty much a toss-up, you know, outside of like G2 and Fnatic. But, you know, hopefully they're able to, you know, finally, you know, break their mold and, you know, get back into that, you know, finals. They've been into an EU final before, you know, so we know they understand how to get that far. It's just the fact of the matter of a lot of EU teams, they can be really good and challenge G2 and Fnatic, but they just stumble randomly, and it's like, why? And you don't really understand it. But hey, I'm a G2 fan, so I don't really personally care. But I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. I'm the Nightwing, and Way of Life Esports is signing out.
Hi there, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more stuff.
Yeah, thank you.